discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Fat Ness Nerd Run-Throughs, and this time we're doing a how-to-play for Pandemic Reign of Cthulhu. Sorry, going a little insane at the moment. So, as usual, we are going to be doing the setup portion of it and then jumping into the how to play. So let's just go right to that. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is obviously take the board and set it up in an area where everyone can reach it. And then you will then take, the game comes with two different types of creatures. So the cultists and then the Shoggoths. And you're just going to take them and you're going to place them somewhere that, like, just a general area. It doesn't really matter a whole lot where they go. And then that's pretty much the first thing you're going to do. Then what you're going to do is take the old ones. These are the ancient ones that will kind of make the game a lot more difficult. So this is what they will look like. They'll have the names up at the top and then their abilities. And then in here they each have, like, you'll find Cthulhu. So there's Cthulhu, and you will place him on the very last track. The track is up at the board, ranges from, this is a summoning rate, so there's 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, and then X, meaning that you lose the game if it gets that far. So you will take all of these and you will shuffle them and place them on the spot that you can kind of see there's a little border at the bottom for each one, so it doesn't really matter, but make sure that Cthulhu is the very last one. And then you'll take the rest of them and you'll put them back into the box. So you'll have a track, and there should be 7 there because your 8th one would cause you to lose. Then each person will get their character, and this is, who they're going to be throughout the rest of the game. And they will each have kind of like a double-sided border. So these are the characters. There's a hunter, reporter, driver, magician, occultist, detective, and doctor. And then you can either choose who everyone is, or you can randomly do it. So let's just pick the hunter. So you'll give the hunter that person, and then you will find the matching token, or not matching token, matching miniature for that person. And then you'll give that to them as well. So, like, here's the hunter. So you'll give that to her. And then each person will also get kind of like a player aid. It mentions sanity on the back, and then all the other actions that you can do. So you'll give that to that person as well. Yay! Then what you're going to do is also, with those people, they have a sanity number up at the top right. So you'll give them that many sanity tokens because sanity is a thing in Cthulhu. So give them 4, and you'll place that next to their character sheet. Alright, next what you're going to do is you're going to now set the game's difficulty. And what that means is not only on, epidemics, but also on the clue cards. So these are the clue cards right here. And there's only going to be 4 colors: Innsmouth, Dunwich, Kingsburg, and then Arkham. And so what you will decide is that if you want to play an introductory, standard, or expert game. Introductory is you will leave all these cards in the deck. But if you want to do standard, you will remove 1 clue card. So you'll remove 1 of each color. So you take, 1 of each and then remove it from the game. Expert, you will do that with 2 of them. So it's kind of shortening your game and the number of cards that you can get. So for simplicity, we're just going to decide, hey, we're going to play a beginner game, an introductory game, and we'll leave every card in. Then you will take the cultist cards and decide, and you're going to kind of like place the cultists on the board. So these are the cultist cards, and they just match the different spots on the map. You will shuffle these and place and then, like, instead of like regular Pandemic where it was 3 cards, for 3 diseases and then 3 cards for 2, you only do 2. So the first 2 you do, you will place 3 cultists on those spots. So like 3 would go on the university, yay, school summoning, and then 3 would go on the market, and then you're going to do that for the next 2, but instead for the next 2 you're going to do 2 cultists, so the factory would get 2, and then the historic inn would also get 2. Yay, I'm not covering it up. And then the last 2 that you do will only get 1, so the pawn shop and boardwalk. There's no park place, unfortunately. But then after you do all this, so you're going to take 1 more card, and that's where a Shoggoth is going to appear. So the train station. Right there. Right on the refrigerator. So that's how you're going to kind of like set up the board with cultists and Shoggoths, and then you'll take these cards and you'll place them in the discard pile, while also playing the, infect deck over here on the right, that matches the back of the deck. Then you're going to decide how many relic cards are going to be put into the player deck. So these are the relic cards. They say relic up at the top, and they also look different than everything else. They obviously match the back. And depending on the number of players, if you're playing with 2 people, you get 4 relics. If you're playing with 3 people, you get 5. And if you're playing with 4, you get 6. So if we were doing a 4-player game, we would get 6 cards, 6 relic cards, and those would just get shuffled into this deck. And then, once again, depending on the number of players, so if we were playing with 4, then we would deal out the certain number of cards. In a 2-player game, everyone gets 4 cards, and a 3-player game, everyone gets 3, and a 4-player game, everyone gets 2. So you hand 2 people, or you hand 2 cards to each person in a 4-player game. Then you will prepare the player deck, which is where the epidemics will come into play. They're not actually called epidemics, but they're called evil stirs cards. So what you will do is, here are the evil stirs, and you're going to do it the same way as you would with regular Pandemic. Since the game only comes with 4 evil stirs, there's no way to modify that. You'll deal out four cards. You'll make 4 piles of cards. So yeah, you'll just do this until you've run out of cards in your deck. Then you will take the evil stirs cards and you will place them on each pile, shuffle up each pile, and then stack them on top of one another. And then you will take that deck that you've made and you will place it right here down at the bottom left of where the player deck goes. And then you yeah, that's the setup. And that's the setup. In Pandemic Reign of Cthulhu, you are investigators that are trying to run around the 4 different cities in the world, trying to stop the end of the world, trying to prevent all of the ancient ones from awakening and close all the gates. Works pretty much the same like regular Pandemic or Pandemic Iberia with a few different twists. So let's just go ahead and jump into how to play this game. Alright, so one thing I did forget to mention in the setup is that you also will need to take these tokens and kind of just place them really in any order on the circle at the bottom in kind of like the player aid on the board. I'll explain what those do in a bit, but that is something else you need to do. As well as every investigator will start in the train station in Arkham up at the top. Okay, so let's just go into all the actions that you can take in this game with some examples. There are 3 different ways that you can move in this game. Obviously the board is a lot smaller than a regular Pandemic board or something like that. So one of the things you could do is walk. Like, that's the easiest thing to do. And if you notice, you'll see these lines on the board that connect each place together. So you can, for one action, you can move down a line to adjacent. So I can go 1, 2, 3, 4 if I wanted to. Just like any other Pandemic game, you only get 4 actions, but you can do any actions multiple times, or you can mix and match, but you get 4. So if I wanted to walk, I can spend all 4 actions to 1, 2, 3, 4 for whatever reason. So you can do that. Oh, she died. Dang it, there we go. The other thing is you can do is you can take a bus. Now, on a lot of these spaces, let's just zoom in real quick. Yeah, like the diner. The diner actually has a bus symbol, as well as the train station, the historic inn, the market, and the factory. All of those have a bus icon, which means if you are there, you can discard a clue to any location that matches the town. So if I was at the diner and I wanted to move to Innsmouth, I could, because in my hand I have Arkham and Innsmouth. Yay! So I can get rid of Innsmouth, and it would go into the discard pile up here. And I can go to the bus station in Innsmouth. That would be 1 action to do so. But there's another thing you can do, is if you discard a card that matches the bus station of the town you're in. So if I got rid of Arkham, and since I'm in Arkham, I could go anywhere. So if I really wanted to come down here to the market, because there's 3 cultists, I can get rid of Arkham to go down there, even though I don't have a Kingsport card. So I can go here and then start doing other actions. So that's taking a bus. Or you can use a gate, meaning that in each of these sections there is 1 space that is a gate, which is the park, the old mill, the graveyard, and the hospital. Each of those has a gate icon, and those are the gates you're trying to close. Well, what you can do is, if you're in the gate space, you can go through the gate to go to any other space with a gate, but there's consequences to that. Meaning, if you go through a gate, you have to roll the sanity die, and the icons that are on here are lose 1 sanity, nothing, spawn 2 cultists at your location, or where is it? Right there, or lose 2 sanity. So, if I was at the park and I wanted to go down to the hospital, or over to the hospital, I would roll that. Oh look, 2 cultists get spawned on the park, but I do go through the hospital. So that's that. That's how using a gate works. If you close a gate, then you can no longer go through the gate to do that. Okay, those are the 3 ways you can move. Very, very simple, I think. So it's just kind of a risk reward on what you're wanting to do. Then here are some other actions. There are only 4 other actions that you can do. So one of them is give or take 1 clue or relic card. If you're in a space with another investigator, you can take a card that matches the city you're in. So if I was in a place with another investigator that had a bunch of Arkham cards, so if I was in the same space as that guy and he had 3 Arkham cards, I can spend 3 actions to take all of the Arkham cards from him. Or it might be easier to just give him Arkham because he has more than I do. That would be the smart way to do that turn. So you can do that. Or there are other relic cards, as I mentioned, like these, that you can just take or give, depending on what you want to do. So that's one other action. The other action you can do is defeat a cultist, meaning if you're in a spot with a cultist, you can spend an action to just defeat them and remove them from the board. So if I was here, I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, because I just removed 1, and that would get rid of all those cultists in the university. The cultists work just like the diseases in regular pandemic in terms of removing them. So that is defeating a cultist. The other action is you can defeat a Shoggoth. Shoggoth, which is what this guy is, costs 3 actions to actually remove. So I'd have to go 1, and if every time you enter a space with a Shoggoth, you have to roll the sanity die. So yay, I lost the sanity. I'll explain sanity in a sec, but I lost the sanity to move in there. The rest of my 3 actions would be to remove him, except the Huntress, or the Hunter. The action I did earlier about defeating cultists, well, the Hunter kind of works like a medic, and she can remove all cultists when doing the defeat cultist action. So for 1 action, it cost me to remove them. So that would have been 1, 2. then I can move here, and then she can also, once per turn, you may defeat a Shoggoth for only one action. Still have to roll the sanity die, but for one action I remove that Shoggoth. And Shoggoths suck, and I'll explain that also later. Anytime you defeat a Shoggoth, you will draw a relic card. Earlier, whenever during setup, you will add relics to the deck, so the other remaining relic cards will be off to the side. You will just draw from the top and add it to your hand. So like that would go right there. And the last action that you can do is sealing a gate. Just like discovering a cure, you need 5 cards of the same color, so I would need like 5 Arkham cards. And then you need to, and then you like just go to the gate and get rid of the 5 cards. So if I had 5 Arkham cards, which 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. If I had 5 Arkham cards, hand limit is still 7. But if I had 5 Arkham cards, I could go 1, 2 down to the park, which is where the gate is. Get rid of these 5, and then I would take the X on the board and place it there, meaning that that gate is now closed. So, whenever you close a gate, there's a couple things that happen. If you're insane, which I haven't explained sanity yet, but if you're insane, you become sane again, and you remove 1 cultist from each space in that area. So if there was a cultist on each space in Arkham, whenever you close the gate, you would actually remove 1 from each. So like they would remove all of them. Yay! So those are actually all the actions you can do. After you do all four of your actions, you'll draw 2 player cards like you normally would, and then you draw summoning cards. So the summoning icon or number is dependent on how many ancient ones are actually awake. And there's a few things that cause them to awaken, but at the beginning of the game, it's going to be 2, then 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, and then you lose. So you draw 2, so the old mill gets 1, old mill's right there, and then the church gets 1. So, and that's your turn, then you go to the next player, and so on and so forth. So now, let's go into things that, other things that can happen in the game. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about some of the different things about this game. Obviously, I've mentioned sanity multiple times before. So, during setup, each character has a certain number of sanity tokens that they start the game with. So, what does this entail? Well, this indicates how sane you are, obviously. But on the back of each character card is an insane side. And all this does is reduce the ability that you have. So, the Hunter has remove all cultists when doing the defeat a cultist action, and once per turn you may defeat a Shoggoth for only 1 action. Okay, that's pretty good. If she ever loses all 4 of her sanity, then her ability now goes down to each turn, the first time you enter a location with no cultists, roll a die. On any sanity loss result, place 1 cultist instead, ignoring all other results. Remove all cultists when doing. So she loses her Shoggoth ability, but still has the remove cultists action. Unfortunately, every time she enters a location with no cultists, she has to see if any show up. So it's a pretty bad thing. So if she loses all of her sanity tokens and becomes insane, and she goes to a location with a gate and goes to close the gate, well then she immediately becomes sane again and gets all of her sanity back. So it's a good thing to kind of, if you can, wait for an insane person to close a gate, but sometimes you won't have that option, so you kind of just need to do it whenever you can. The other thing about sanity is that you lose most of your abilities. So, like, her best ability is the fact that she can remove a Shoggoth. Another thing about sanity is that if everyone is insane, all the players you're playing with, you immediately lose. So it's kind of like you want to keep an eye on that. The other thing that can happen in this game is that instead of outbreaks, so you may be thinking, oh, so what if the market gets drawn and a fourth cultist would go there. Well, they don't outbreak to like every connected city like they do in like regular Pandemic. They actually awaken an Ancient One, and the Ancient Ones suck. So some of them have permanent effects, others have, immediate effects. So if the market were to get drawn, or if any space were to get a fourth cultist, they stay like that, but an Ancient One gets awakened. So if that happened, then Nyarlathotep would be awakened, which means investigators may no longer do the use a gate action, meaning that they can now only move by walking or doing a bus. So that is a permanent ability for the rest of the game, as indicated by the infinity symbol. So it just gets placed up there. So that's how an Ancient One can get awakened. And the other time is if you're going to draw a card and one of them is an Evil Stirs card, well, boo. Because now you fight the madness, which means you roll the insanity die. Okay, so she loses a sanity. Then you do Awakening, which means you reveal the next Ancient One, which, okay, that's Yogg-Sothoth. So playing relic cards can only be done by the active player. Cool! The active player is the one that's currently going, which sucks because now sometimes you want to use it to benefit another player. Then a Shoggoth appears, which means you will draw the bottom card of the summoning deck and place a Shoggoth there. So it was the woods, which means now he appears in the woods. And then, let's see, place that there. Then you will do Cultist Regroup, means you shuffle, kind of like you do the Intensify. You shuffle all the cards that were originally used before in the discard pile. You will place them on top, and then you will draw cards equal to the number of icons under the current Ancient One. So, oh look, the woods, which is where the Shoggoth appears. Now, here's a good thing that I need to mention on these types of cards. Some of these cards will have this Shoggoth icon at the bottom, which means that a Shoggoth moves, and they will move towards the nearest gate, which is pretty much always where they're at. So a gate is down here at the graveyard, meaning that the Shoggoth, 1, 2, 3, so he's going to move to the market. And don't worry, Cultist and Shoggoth can share the same area. So, oh look, and then a Historic Inn. So one Cultist went to the woods, and then the other one went to the Historic Inn. Another Shoggoth symbol, so now it moves to the wharf. Another way that an Ancient One can awaken is if the Shoggoth moves to a gate location and then is told to move again. It is not whenever a Shoggoth gets to the gate icon, they have to move again. So if I did, yeah, I'm not going to get one now. Okay, so if I got the university, a Cultist goes to the university, and then the Shoggoth is told to move. He does not move because he's on the gate space. He just gets removed from the board, which means that you now draw another Ancient One, which is Shub-Niggurath, which is just a shitty fucking card. So, that is how Ancient Ones get awakened. That is also how an Evil Stirs card is used. It just gets removed from the game, and then there's 4 total in the deck. So, how? Well, let me talk about relics. Relics work the same way as events. They can be used at any time, and they don't cost an action. Some of them are shuffled throughout the player deck. Others you get if you defeat a Shoggoth. So you can use them at any time, unless it says an Ancient One says otherwise. But like this one is a My Go I, which means the next gate requires 1 fewer card. So yeah, you only need 4 to close a gate. Okay, how do you win this game? You win the game by closing all 4 gates. Like that's just kind of like the other pandemic games. You just by researching all the diseases. But in this one, you need to close all 4 gates. There are multiple ways that you can lose this game, and that is if the last old one gets awakened. So meaning that like you have all of these that are awakened, which are gonna affect the game. And then if you were ever to raise the last one, which is Cthulhu, the world is plunged into an age of madness, chaos, and destruction. You have lost. So That is one way you can lose. The other way you can lose is if you cannot draw more cultists. You cannot place more cultists on the board. So if they look like that, and you were supposed to draw a cultist and you can't, then you lose. The other way that you can lose is if you have to draw a Shoggoth as well. So if the Shoggoth looked like that and you had to draw a Shoggoth, you lost. Or if you run out of cards, then like if you're ever supposed to be able to draw 2 cards and you cannot, then you lose the game that way. Another way you can lose is if everyone is insane. So that is how you play Pandemic Reign of Cthulhu. And that's it, everyone. That is how you play Pandemic Reign of Cthulhu. Obviously, multiple ways to lose, really only one way to win. Can you do it? Can you close every gate without being succumbed to madness? Well, you're going to have to find out. I hope this video really helped you understand how to play this game. If I made any mistakes whatsoever, make sure to let me know in the comments below, and I'll like and love it so people can see it. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you. Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you want to support us, you can go ahead and click that link to go to my Patreon account. If you have any suggestions, you can go ahead and click the link in the show notes below to go to my Board Game Geek list. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.